Hey BookTube, welcome back to the History Shelf. My name is Peg. Thanks for joining me today. Today we'll have a dedicated spotlight on Osprey military history titles. I've got a ton of new releases from Osprey Publishing Group, and a lot of them are some of the series that I've shown on this channel before. That kind of are slim volumes that cover different categories of military history, such as campaigns or air campaigns, essential histories, men at arms, the combat series, which is a lot of fun, that pits different warriors from different historical periods against one another. So let's just hop right in, because we've got a big old stack, plus a big stack of books that are new releases from Osprey. So if you love military history, you've come to the right place. There's my shirt. Old Lady Detective Bus Tours. Yes, Martine and I have matching shirts. No comments. Yeah, so anyway, let's hop right in. We're going to hop into two new essential histories. These are the smaller versions of some of these series. They're just like one-stop shop, high overview of different wars throughout history. And obviously this one is The War of 1812 by Carl Benn. I apologize for the glare, but I've got my light on because it's end of day and we're losing the light out there. Oh, this is number, do we have numbers in this series? I guess not. I won't read every description because it's just, there's not enough time. But obviously this is an overview of the War of 1812, which lasted through to 1815. Oh, and this is a new and thoroughly revised edition. Oh, that's great. Okay. Oh, it says this edition draws on scholarly advances that have occurred since original publication in 2002, many of which have changed our perception of the conflict. Well, that's intriguing. Did I miss something in the historiography of 1812? Like something new came up in the last 20 years? I might... Yeah, let me read this and see where... I'll see where those things happened. But these are wonderfully illustrated, just easy to read. If you're trying to get someone, even to students, you know, this would be good for, like, if you have... school-age children that are just about to enter into some study on American history. These are great references, and I think they're written so well that it could really get them into history. Where's some other stuff I was looking at? Yeah, just a handy-dandy guide on just the essentials, right? So the next essential history I have here is Russia's Wars in Chechnya, 1994 to 2009 by Mark Galeotti. Let me see if you can see it better on that side. There you go. We're going to get that glare no matter what we do. There we go. Slim little volume. The prolonged and bitter campaigns in Chechnya from 94 to 2009 profoundly influenced Russia's politics, society, and military. In this new edition of his popular 2014 work, Mark Galeotti traces the progress of the wars from the initial Russian advance through to urban battles such as Grozny and the prolonged guerrilla warfare in the mountainous regions. Oh, a lot of these have updated stuff. Updating the book with a revised introduction and new content on the Kadyrovtsy's role in Russia's other conflicts. Galeotti assesses how the wars have torn apart the fabric of Chechen society and impacted Russia itself. Interesting. And these typically run a little bit over like 130, 140 pages. So, yeah, I love these. I love these little essential histories. I have a nice little stack of them. But if you're curious about just Russia's modern wars, this might be a good place to start. Then we'll move into, I'm going to try to group these by like product line, I guess we'll say. So this is the Men at Arms series. These are probably the skinniest of the bunch. They are like 50 pages, if that. But I'm really excited for this one. This is the Union Army, 1861 to 65, Part 1, The Regular Army and the Territories, by Ron Field. And Marco Caparoni is the illustrator. As you can see, very slim. This volume is the first of a three-part study that describes and depicts the uniforms, insignia, and personal equipment of the Union Army's regular infantry, artillery, cavalry, and engineers, plus specialists such as U.S. sharpshooters, veteran reserve corps, medical corps, and signal corps. And it also covers the troops fielded by the territories that fought for the Union. So just a lot of neat pictures. Let's see, we've got some illustrations here. I mean, these are very straightforward, these books, so it's not much, it's just, they get right to the point. They're very specific. They give you the information you need in a very illustrative way. So the next Men-at-Arms, and actually these have numbers. So this is Men-at-Arms 553. And then we have Medieval Indian Armies, Part 2, or Volume 2. Indo-Islamic Forces, 7th to early 16th centuries by David Nicole, and Graham Turner is the illustrator. You see those? Says beginning in the 7th century, Islamic forces were active in South Asia. From 1206, much of what is now India, as well as parts of Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Nepal, was ruled by a succession of Islamic dynasties, but their dominance over this huge area was never complete. All right, this study complements the author's first volume, which was Medieval Indian Armies, Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain. I don't know if I have that one. I think I do. It describes and illustrates the Indo-Islamic forces operating in South Asia, from the Umayyad Caliphate's frontier in the late 7th century through to the Delhi, Bengal, and Bahmani sultanates in the 15th and 16th centuries. So, again, I just love... these are such a nice change pace from reading just block text, reading just, history titles that just page after page of dense text, and then you come across something like this and you're like, it's kind of like a magazine, really. It's like a history magazine in a way. I do love these, the artwork though. I love the artwork. Isn't this great? I say this every time I show these volumes by Osprey, but I just love them. Okay, what series is this? We've got a lot of these. All right, so these are the most recent ones that have come out. I think I might have a few more I haven't shown you yet, but I think I've caught up pretty much. So the next series is it's green. Like I kind of go by the color scheme. These are the blues, and the Elite series are the greens. So this is Elite 253. Oh, and I should say Men-at-Arms or Medieval Indian Armies was 552, so the Union Army was the most recent one. So Elite, we have Elite 253, Anglo-Saxon Kings and Warlords, AD 400 to 2070. Sorry, 2070. Wow, Warlords, yeah. 1070. By Raphael D'Amato and Stephen Pollington, Raphael Ruggeri, illustrator. Kind of cool. See here. Again, I don't want to read every single one of these. So, covering the Anglo-Saxon kings and warlords from 400 to 1070. Give you just a flavor of what you're looking at here. The intros are always very nice, well written, concise. Kind of introduce you to the topic. I love how they depict the cover art, and they kind of go into detail about the armament or what they were wearing, what they were using at the time. So you see those things are numbered, and then you can go over here, and it kind of lays out who they represent. In this case, it would be these are some of the people Hengest the Exile, Sigfrith, Lord of the Sekgen, and Vortigern, post-Roman British ducks. Whatever. Yeah, they have a lot of archaeological finds. Look at those helmets. So this is Elite. Oh, and I should mention again what the Elite series does is the history of military forces, artifacts, personalities, and techniques of warfare. And Men-at-Arms is the uniforms, equipment, history, and organization of the world's military forces, past and present. So that's what those do. Now, I've got 3 new campaign series, and these are like the dark orange or red, the red line. Let me see, I'll try to put these in order. So I've got numbers 396 through 398. Let's do it. First one is Japan's Indian Ocean Raid, 1942, the Allies' lowest ebb. These are a bit thicker, a little bit more reading there involved. This is by Mark Still, illustrated by Jim Laurier. In the campaign series, what they do is it's accounts of history's greatest conflicts, detailing the command strategies, tactics, and battle experiences of the opposing forces throughout the crucial stages of each campaign. So in this one, it says in March 1942, the combined fleet developed a plan to conduct a large-scale operation into the Indian Ocean, codenamed Operation Sea. Its primary objective was to cripple the Royal Navy's Eastern Fleet in a Pearl Harbor-style raid on its bases in Ceylon. The striking force under Vice Admiral Nagumo Chuichi was given this task. Though Admiral Sir James Somerville's Eastern Fleet was not caught in port, it still suffered heavy losses and was almost annihilated when Somerville tried to execute his own ambush of Nagumo's fleet. Interesting. I'm reading more of the back because I'm curious about this particular event. In this book, expert naval historian Mark Still documents the high point of Japanese naval air power as its carriers struck Ceylon, the heart of British naval power in the east, sinking several Allied ships, including the carrier Hermes. The Allied air attempts to destroy Nagumo's force and the separate Japanese attacks against British shipping in the cities along the Indian coast are covered in easy-to-follow maps and diagrams and specially commissioned illustrations. Although the Japanese inflicted significant attrition on the Eastern Fleet, they were unable to establish control of the key sea areas in the raid's aftermath. So, Japan's Indian Ocean Raid, 1942. And this is number 396 in the series. Really cool maps. Let's find some of that artwork. Lots of photographs of the period. Ooh, yeah, that's nice. Jim Laurier. Look at that. I can't tell you how much I know I say it to just beating a dead horse, but I love the artwork. I just love it. The next one we have is Campaign 397, and this is Cape Matapan, 1941, Cunningham's Mediterranean Triumph by Angus Costam, illustrated by Adam Tooby. I'm not even aware of this battle. The Battle of Cape Matapan witnessed the first use of significant new technologies to bring about a stunning British victory over the Italian Navy. The Allies had tapped into the ultra-coded messages sent by the Axis powers, and the Italians suffered from not having radar, a technological advantage of which they were largely unaware. Radar would play a major role in the critical night action during the battle, one of the most decisive engagements of the Mediterranean naval war. All right, written, let's see here. Specially commissioned battle scene artworks bring to life the cruiser clashes early on March 28th off Gavdos, the fleet air-arm attacks on the Italian fleet, and the March 28th to 29th night action that resulted in the destruction of Admiral Carlo Cataneo's ships, Italy's worst naval defeat. Again, now this is a an event in World War II I am not aware of, and there's a lot that I'm not aware of in World War II. A lot happened. This is pretty cool. I love these maps. Let's see here. I like these. These kind of have like a little key showing you what's happening during the battle, what's popping off here as far as like where the guns are firing, what's happening on the horizon. The campaign series always goes into these chapter headings that say opposing plans. So you'll have the opposing plans of each of the key players, of the two players. And there's some artwork. There we go. So that is 397, and then 398 in the campaign series is Port Arthur. Now we're moving away from World War II. It's Port Arthur, 1904 to 05. The First Modern Siege by Robert Forsyth, illustrated by Steve Noon. Look at that. This is so cool. Look at that artwork. I think this is the Russians versus the, is it Japan? Yeah. Mutual imperialistic ambitions in regard to Manchuria and Korea set Russia and Japan upon a collision course in February 1904. Japan launched a surprise naval attack against the anchored Russian Pacific Fleet at its base in Port Arthur, followed by a landing in the Liaodong Peninsula in May. The fighting that followed witnessed the employment of new equipment and tactics, breaking away from previous methods of warfare and foreshadowing the battlefields of 1914 to 15. Respected military historian Robert Forsyth describes the lengthy Japanese siege of the Russian-held town and harbor. The initial attempts to capture the port by assault are documented in detail, together with the progress of the Japanese through the heavily fortified lines protecting Port Arthur. Yeah, this is going to be a good one. This is one I'm aware of the main battles of the Russo-Japanese War, and this is a main one, obviously. But I'd like to know a lot more about it. Like, these are really cool. These type of maps that are almost, I guess I try to take a 3D look. Here we go. Again, opposing plans, just as an example. There's Japanese plans, battle plans, and then it goes into the Russian battle plans. Yeah. And lots of photos and maps and all that good stuff. Okay, so the next series, let me just take a quick sip. The next series that I have a new issue for is number 76 of the Combat series. A really fun series. I love these. And this one is the Barbarian Warrior versus Roman Legionary. The Marcomannic Wars, AD 165 to 180 by Murray Dahm. The cover, the design is just brilliant. It takes a departure from the others that are just have like a colored bar at the bottom. Yeah, these have a lot of energy. They're slim little volumes, but they pack a punch. So this is exactly what it says it is. It's going to target these two types of warriors over this. I'm not familiar with Marcomannic Wars, AD 165 to 180. But they try to bring you, give you the realities of like frontline combat. They do a lot of split screen stuff in here to kind of, show you the two opposing sides, how they match up. They got a lot of maps, and here's the split screen. I'll give you an example of what the split screen does. So like they're forming up for battle, right? And then you have two different views. Isn't that wild? I love it. So what is the Marcomannic War? Shortly after Marcus Aurelius came to power in AD 161, the Roman Empire was racked by a series of military crises. While unrest in Britain and a new war with Parthia were swiftly dealt with, the invasion of Roman territory by the Chatti and Chauci peoples heralded a resurgent threat from the empire's European neighbors. Soon the Marcomanni and the Quadi, as well as the Dacians and the Sarmatian Izyges, Iazyges, the Sarmatian Ziggies, would attack the Romans in a series of savage conflicts that would involve the first invasion of Roman Italy since the beginning of the 1st century BC. This book assesses the two sides' objectives, weapons, equipment, and fighting styles in the context of 3 battles. Carnuntum, which was in 170, the Battle on the Ice, 172, and that was where Romans fought their lighter-armed Sarmatian and German opponents on the frozen Danube, and the so-called Miracle of the Rain in 174, during which a trapped Roman force facing annihilation defeated numerically superior Germanic forces. Yes. Then here's like the Battle on the Ice. I'm trying to find more artwork. I love the artwork. Very cool. Again, it's a really fun series. Okay, so the final, as far as the, and then we'll move on to books. The final, as far as these slim little volumes go, is Air Campaign. We've got a new one out on the Air Campaign. This is number 42. Eastern Front, 1945, Triumph of the Soviet Air Force by William E. Heistand, and illustrated by Jim Laurier again. These have a really cool fuselage, like shiny, B-27 bomber kind of feel. It's an ingenious graphic design that really kind of calls out that this is all about planes, fighter bombing units and jets, prop planes, everything. Anything that flies. So this one, for the first time, this book outlines how air power helped win the war on the Eastern Front and how victory shaped Soviet air power doctrine for the decades to come. But to back up a little bit, it says here that the last months of World War II in the Eastern Front saw a ferocious battle between 2 very different air forces. The Soviet Air Force assembled 7,500 aircraft in 3 powerful air armies to support the final assault on Berlin, while the worn-down Luftwaffe threw its last and most advanced weapons into the fight, including the Me-262 jet and Mistel remotely guided bomb aircraft. Hi, Daisy. Daisy just walked in. So, yeah. Again, more great artwork from Jim Laurier. He's got a feel for that, for sure. Okay, now Daisy's... Roxy... You know how with children, you sometimes call them the wrong name? I do that with our dogs. So that Goldie just walked in. Everyone wants a piece of Mommy. Mommy is working. Some more great Air Campaign books from Osprey. So, now we're going to move on to some brand new books from Osprey. I'm so thrilled to have this one. And I'll tell you why after this brief break for me to sort out my dogs. Thank you. Okay, we're all set. So the next book I want to show you from Osprey is written by one of the co-authors of a book I recently just finished reading, a biography of Thermopylae. It's called The Killing Ground. This is Michael Livingston's book on Agincourt, the Battle of Agincourt, and it's called Agincourt, Battle of the Scarred King. And it's got a foreword by Bernard Cornwell, you guys. It doesn't get much better than that. Again, nice, beautiful book from Osprey. Let's give you a synopsis of Agincourt. And I do have the pup sheet here. I'm going to rest my arm here. Okay. We good? We are good. King Henry V's victory over the French armies let me start over again. King Henry V's victory over the French armies at Agincourt on October 25th, 1415, is unquestionably one of the most famous battles in history. From Shakespeare's Band of Brothers speech to its appearances in numerous films, Agincourt rightfully has a place among a handful of conflicts whose names are immediately recognized around the world. And I'm right-handed, and I really should hold it in my right hand. Here we go. The English invasion of France in 1415 saw them take the French port of Harfleur after a long siege, following which Henry was left with a sick and weakened army, which he chose to march across Normandy to the port of Calais, against the wishes of his senior commanders. The French had assembled a superior force and shadowed the English army before finally blocking its route. The battle that followed was an overwhelming victory for the English, with the French suffering horrific casualties. Agincourt opened the door for Henry V's further conquests in France. This book provides a new look at this famous battle. Mike Livingston goes back to the original sources, including the French battle plan, that still survives today, to give a new interpretation, one that challenges the traditional sites of the battlefield itself. It is a thrilling new history that not only rewrites the battle as we know it, but also provides fresh insights into the men who fought and died there. Yes. This came out, I haven't had a chance to show this one to you yet, but it came out last year. And, but I noticed that name after I finished reading The Killing Ground. I'm like, I've read some of this guy before. So, I'm ready to get into this. Agincourt. So, I love reading military historians who really tackle the original source material and try to find something new. And like I said in one of my last videos on The Killing Ground, Mike Cole and Michael Livingston came up with a couple of different theories about Thermopylae, the Battle of Thermopylae with King Leonidas and the 300 Spartans, that I just found intriguing as all get out. And I'm going to share that with you when I do my Historathon 2024 Q1 wrap-up. All right, let's stick with this time frame. It's a little bit. This goes back earlier in England's history. But this came out last November. Okay, so I'm a little bit behind on this one. But this is Battle for the Island Kingdom, England's Destiny, 1000 to 2066 by Don Holloway. It's a beautiful book. A rich history of the years leading up to 2066, when Vikings, Anglo-Saxons, and Normans vied for the English crown. Battle for the Island Kingdom reveals the life and death struggle for power which changed the course of history. The 6 decades leading up to 1066 were defined by bloody wars and intrigues in which 3 peoples vied for supremacy over the island kingdom. In this epic retelling, Don Holloway, author of The Last Viking, oh yeah, I remember that, recounts the clashes of Vikings, Anglo-Saxons, and Normans, their warlords, and their conniving queens. So let's see here. Who else does he include in this? The saga begins with the Viking Knut the Great, forging 3 nations into his North Sea Empire, while his Saxon wife, Elfgifu, rules in his stead. Her archenemy, Emma of Normandy, widow of Saxon King Ethelred, claims Knut's realm in exchange for her hand in marriage. Their sons become rivals, pawns in their mother's wars, until they can secure their own destinies. And always in the shadows is Godwin of Wessex, playing all sides to become the power behind the throne, so his son Harold can emerge as king of all England. But Harold's brother Tostig, and I love that name, Tostig. Tostig turns traitor, abandons the Anglo-Saxons, and joins the army of the last great Viking, Harold Hardrada, where together they meet their fate at the Battle of Stamford Bridge. And all this time watching from across the water is William, the bastard, fighting to secure his own Norman dukedom, but with an eye on the English crown. Who will prevail in the battle for the island kingdom? Well, we know the answer, but it's fun getting to the answer when you read these history books, I tell you what. Yeah, so this is another great standalone history by Don Holloway. And did I say Holloway? Holloway. Yeah, so I've got The Last Viking as well. And The Last Viking was about Harold Hardrada. So this is going to be a nice little expansion on the story. Yeah. So that one is also brand new from Osprey. Tostig the Traitor. All right, now we're going to be moving up into more modern wars. We are going to look at, go back to World War II. And I've got my press release here. We've got the Convoy. HG 76, Taking the Fight to Hitler's U-Boats by Angus Constam. In December 1941, just a week after Pearl Harbor, HG 76, a convoy of 32 merchant ships left Gibraltar bound for Liverpool. Commander Johnny Walker was responsible for protecting them. He faced a daunting task as a German wolf pack of U-boats was lying in wait for him. During the convoy's 2,000-mile voyage, it would be continually shadowed by enemy U-boats and aircraft and attacked with relentless ferocity. Until now, the U-boats were winning the tonnage war in the Atlantic, sinking ships faster than the Allies could build them. If that continued, Britain would be brought to its knees. Convoy HG-76, though, had two game-changing advantages. The first was the presence among its escorts of the small carrier Audacity. While she only carried 4 fighters, they proved invaluable in the convoy's defense. The second was Walker himself, an expert in anti-submarine warfare whose talents hadn't yet been tested. The Convoy combines the story of the technical and tactical developments that won the Battle of the Atlantic for the Allies, along with a narrative that reveals both the terror and the stubborn determination that defined the experiences of those who served on convoy duties. Fantastic. Angus Constam. His name sounds very familiar to me. That's why I paused at the beginning, because I'm like, Angus Constam. What else has he written that I am very aware of here? Oh, Hunt the Bismarck. Yeah. He's written, oh, yeah, I have Hunt the Bismarck. That's right. Okay. Yeah. And they got some great pictures in the interior. I think these are the depth charges right here. Yeah. So that looks really good. That just reminds me, I want to read Das Boot. I've always been, I want to get back into, on the issue of like submarine warfare, I've always been, I guess you could say, morbidly fascinated by the men that choose to do that, because it blows my mind that people would actually go into a submarine and then be put in a position to just implode or drown or, just be crushed by the depths. It's fascinating in a morbid way. I've seen Das Boot the movie many times. Obviously, only watch it with the German. Do not watch it dubbed. That is awful. But I have Das Boot, actually. It's on one of these shelves behind me. And I want to read the novel. Plus, I have a couple of big volumes on submarine warfare by Ian. It's Ian. Oh, I'm forgetting his last name, but yeah, I kind of want to read some stuff on submarines lately. So that should do the trick as well. All right, and then we have another juicy book. Oh, and this is a brand new one. Hello, hang on. We're going to talk to you. This one just came out last week. Okay, that one's a little... How did I get these mixed up? Here's a brand new book. This is the latest book from Osprey. Came out February 6th. This is Target Hong Kong, a true story of U.S. Navy pilots at war. That is a nice, beautiful new book, and that's by Stephen K. Bailey. So what are we looking at with this one? Commander John LeMade started the war in 1941, a nervous pilot of an antiquated biplane. Just over 3 years later, he was in the cockpit of a cutting-edge Hellcat, about to lead a strike force of 80 aircraft through the turbulent skies above the South China Sea. His target, Hong Kong. As a storm of anti-aircraft fire darkened the sky, watching from below was POW Ray Jones. For 3 long years, he and his fellow prisoners had endured near-starvation conditions in a Japanese internment camp. Did these American aircraft, he wondered, herald freedom? Trawling through historic records, Stephen K. Bailey discovered that the story of the U.S. Navy airstrikes on Japanese-held Hong Kong during the final year of World War II had never been told. Operation Gratitude involved nearly 100 U.S. Navy warships and close to 1,000 planes. Target Hong Kong brings this massive operation down to a human scale by recounting the air raids through the experiences of 7 men whose lives intersected at Hong Kong in January 1945. Commander John D. LeMade, 5 of his fellow U.S. Navy pilots, and the POW Ray Jones. Drawing upon oral histories, diary transcripts, and U.S. Navy documents, this book expertly narrates the intertwined experiences of these servicemen to bring history to life. Yep, so this just came out last week, February 6th. That looks like a great story. So I'm happy to take a look, and I'm happy to share it with you guys. Target Hong Kong. Okay, where are we at now? Let's see, maybe I should... Okay, these came out last year, and I think this one did too. But let's stick... We'll finish up World War II before we move to some wars over in the Middle East. I'm not sure if I've already shown you this one, you guys. I feel like I might have, but I'm not sure. So I apologize if you're seeing this again. Oh, and here's the name I recognize. He's written quite a few books for Osprey. This is Mark Still again. Okay, this is Lady Gulf, A New History of the World's Largest Sea Battle by Marquis Still. You know what? I might have shown you an advanced copy. That's what I'm thinking I showed you. I might have had an advanced copy, and now I've got the finished copy of Lady Gulf, but let me just give you a good little rundown here. This is a fascinating re-examination of the Battle of Lady Gulf, the largest naval encounter in history and probably the most decisive naval battle of the entire Pacific War, and one that saw the Imperial Japanese Navy eliminated as an effective fighting force and forced to resort to suicide tactics. You know what? I've got a little bit of dry mouth going on here. So we're going to take a sip of that, and we are going to push on. Leyte was a huge and complex action, actually consisting of 4 major battles, each of which are broken down in detail in this book, using original sources. The plans of both sides and how they dictated the events that followed are also examined critically. So much of the accepted wisdom of the battle has developed from the many myths that surround it, myths that have become firmly established in our own time. In this new study, Pacific War expert Mark Still examines the key aspects of this complex battle with new and insightful analysis and dismantles the myths surrounding the respective actions and overall performances of the 2 most important commanders in the battle and the lost, quote-unquote, lost victory of the Japanese advance into Lady Gulf that never happened. All right, let's take a look here. I'm pretty sure that this was an advance. I had like an advanced paperback of this, and but there were so many battles that were clutch. I mean, wasn't Midway considered the greatest naval battle? Or maybe that was considered like the greatest American victory. This is saying the largest naval encounter in history. And then it says, and then it kind of hedges a bit and says, and probably the most decisive naval battle. Okay, so that's up for conjecture. So I guess the sheer number of ships involved. Yeah, largest sea battle. Right. Gotcha. Okay. I'm up to speed. All right. What do we got now? Okay, so now we're going to move over to the Middle East. This looks really interesting. I think this is, it's kind of like a memoir or sort. I think this is it's a first-hand account. And either way, I love first-hand accounts. This is With My Shield, an Army Ranger in Somalia by James Lechner. And you'll all notice the blurb from Mark Bowden. He's the author of Black Hawk Down. So he gives it his approval. So With My Shield. In 1993, Lieutenant James Lechner, a member of the 3rd Ranger Battalion, was selected for a top-secret special operations task force being sent to Mogadishu, Somalia, to capture the insurgent leader Mohammed Farah Aidid. In early October, after weeks on the ground and conducting a number of raids in the city, Task Force Ranger is called upon to launch a daring daylight mission into the heart of Aidid's territory. During the raid, following the initial dangerous fast rope insertion and subsequent capture of a group of Aidid's lieutenants, one of the task force Black Hawk helicopters is shot down, and Lechner and his comrades are soon caught up in the fiercest combat involving U.S. forces since the Vietnam War. In the middle of the hostile city, deep in the enemy stronghold, the small group of rangers and special operators now find themselves fighting not only to rescue the downed helicopter's crewmen, but also to save their own lives. Wow. This first-hand account reveals how these elite warriors were able to stand together and prevail against incredible odds. It gives the reader the perspective of an Army Ranger fighting on the ground, combined with professional military analysis and a groundbreaking book that tells the complete story with never-before-revealed details. Wow. So it's another member of the, who was, Mark Bowden, obviously, wrote Black Hawk Down, but this is another soldier and his experience in the Black Hawk Down raid. So I'm there for it. I will read this, and I bet this is pretty, it's going to be pretty hair-raising. I'm always happy to see soldiers getting their stories out. No matter how, this was like, what, 20, was it 24, 27, I can count, 30 years ago, almost? Yeah. Oh, God. Time flies. Wow. Okay, final book on this long New Books Osprey haul here is 21 Days to Baghdad. General Buford Blount and the 3rd Infantry Division in the Iraq War by Heather Marie Sturr. All right, let's see what we got here. In 21 Days to Baghdad, historian Dr. Heather Sturr narrates the commitment of the division to Kuwait, the invasion of Iraq, and the 3 weeks of violent desert conflicts on the way to Baghdad, before the siege and battle for the city itself, and the thunder runs that saw its fall to U.S. forces. This history is based on exclusive, extensive interviews with General Buford "Buff" Blount, the U.S. Army 2-star general who led the 3rd Infantry Division. His years of experience in the Middle East led him to question the recall of his division from Iraq at the end of 2003 and its replacement by a less experienced unit. President George W. Bush and Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld did not believe that peacekeeping and humanitarian assistance were worthwhile uses of a conventional combat force like the 3rd Infantry Division. The division had destroyed Hussein's government. Mission accomplished, or so Bush and Rumsfeld thought. 21 Days to Baghdad illustrates the long reach of the U.S. military, the limitations of nation building in the wake of war, and the tensions between D.C.-based policymakers and ground troops over the purpose and conduct of the U.S. invasion of Iraq. The result is a compelling narrative of a chaotic moment in time. Yes, by bringing historical scope to bear on the facts, Sturr draws a detailed picture of the events that took place. Yeah, it seems like in every war, though, you're going to have that push and pull between the civilian sector and the military side. Having been in the military and just kind of have seen how things operate, obviously my sympathies lie with the military. Having to listen to civilians who know nothing about military structure or just how it operates, the overlapping, I don't want to say rivalries, but there's different aspects of running a military unit that civilians, they just don't get. Now, I get it. I know that the founding fathers put that in place for a reason, and a civilian should always be making decisions. I guess, yeah, they should be in government, but they really need to listen to their commanders on the ground, is what I'm trying to say, because they know what it is to try to take care of their troops and to keep them safe and to defeat the enemy. I think listen to the military. That's all I'm saying. So, 21 Days to Baghdad by Heather Marie Sturr. So that's it, guys. That's a big bunch of new Osprey titles that I've been wanting to get to you. Sorry for the delay in a few of these, but I think they're all winners. You can't go wrong. I only bring you the best in history and military history on this channel. So let me know what you think of the titles below. Let me know if you enjoy these dedicated kind of like publisher spotlights that I do, especially for Casemate and Osprey. They're really just they're like what's going on. Like that's like the best game in town for military history, for detailed military history, are publishers like Osprey and Casemate and their imprints. So anyway, let me know what you think below. Thanks for hanging around for a long-ish video, but I will be back soon with more history and a variety of other things here at the History Shelf. So thanks for joining, everyone. Take care and be well.